Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever and whenever you are. My name is Benjamin, and welcome to part 6 for our Heart Platformer series in Godot 4. This series is made possible by the people who support me by purchasing my Godot course. If you're interested in that, you can check out the comments section, the pinned comment, or the description for more information. Now let's get started. In the last video, we created our hazards with the spikes and learned about collision masks and layers. In this video, we're going to start by creating some new assets, or I've already created the assets actually, which is this little heart here. I'm going to save this into the project. So we'll do save as, and we'll come into our platformer and we'll do heart.png. Now what I want to use this for is to create a collectible. So let's create a new scene. We'll do, let's actually make this one an area 2D, I think. Call it heart. And we'll give it a sprite. We'll find our heart down here. Drag it in here. The zoom clear in. And we'll give it a collision shape. You can probably just do a circle for this. Be about that big. I might move it up one. Well, that's actually pretty good. Now we'll come back into our collision layers here, and our heart it's going to be a collectible. The idea that I have is that our level will have so many hearts, and when you collect them all, then it lets you go to the next level. So each level will just be a level with some hazards and some collectibles. And when you get all the collectibles, you can go to the next level. And it might be kind of fun to time it. I figure it could be like a speed running thing. And this will really help us to focus on our character's movement, which I think still could use some improvements. There's definitely some improvements to be made with our character's controller. So we'll be working on that as well. So let's come into here and we'll have it target the player layer like this, our heart, and we'll save. Then we'll give it a script and we'll save. We'll come into our world and we can drag in a few hearts here. Stick one, let's put one here. And then we could put one, let's see, maybe here. And you can hit Control D to duplicate them and then just move them like that. That looks pretty good. We've got 3 little hearts. Maybe we could stick one up here as well, like that. That makes 5 hearts, right? And our player can't actually do anything with them yet. But if we come into our heart script, we can click on our heart, come to node here for our signals, select our area entered signal, connect it to our heart, and we can do free. We'll just free it. Now, it doesn't work. So let's look at our heart here again. So this probably isn't, we can see that this signal is connected, right? We can see that it's connected here in the editor, calling queue free. So that should be working. If we come down here though, we're targeting the player mask with this area. I see what I did wrong now. Silly mistake. I connected the area entered, but our player is not an area, it's a body. It's a character body. And so we actually want to disconnect that. And we want to do body entered. I have literally years of experience with Godot and I still make silly mistakes sometimes. So Don't feel bad if you make mistakes. Okay, got that one. Collected all the hearts. Perfect. Okay. Now, I think what we want to do here, we want to be able to have multiple levels, right? If we come into our world here, and I think in order to be able to have multiple levels, we need to have an easier way to create different levels. And currently we're using this polygon shape, and that works pretty well. But it would be good to implement some sort of auto tiling system and stuff. So I think that'll be its own video. I wouldn't want to add it into this video right here. So I think what we'll do now is just focus on our character's movement just a little bit, and in the next video we can create an auto tiling system to allow us to create more levels. We've got our hearts that we can collect. Let's quit the game. Let's do something at least when all the hearts are collected. Even if we restart the level, we should do something to indicate to the player that they did collect all the hearts. So we can do this. In order to do this, we'll need to keep track of when the hearts are destroyed, and then we'll need to see how many hearts are remaining. So inside of here, we're destroying the heart, right? And we can come into here, and right after destroying it, we could try to determine how many hearts are left on this level, right? So the easiest way to do this, or the first way that I think of doing this, is to come into node here, and we already learned about signals. Let's learn about groups. So click on groups, and you can add a node to a group. So we'll add this to the group hearts, like that, okay? And that will create this little icon here. So we have the signals icon, and then we have this little box now too, and that is telling us that it's in a group. See how there's a box here for groups? So we've got the box for groups, and we've got the two little curved lines for the signal. We know that our hearts are inside of a group. Well, once you've added something to a group, you can do some things with that. So if we do get tree, like this, there's a few functions that deal with groups. There's call group, which allows us to call a function on a group. We also have get nodes. We have get first node in group, which will grab a node from that group. And then we have get nodes in group, like this, which will give us a collection or an array of all of the nodes in that group. So this is the one that we're interested in, get nodes in group, and you need to tell it what group. And you have to pass this in as a string, so blue hearts. And this has to match perfectly with this right here, otherwise it won't work. So we can store this collection of hearts inside of a variable. So we can just say hearts equals getTree.getNodes in group hearts. Okay? And now we can print this number. We can print the amount inside of this array, because this is an array. Okay, it's a list. So we can say print. Oh goodness, I forgot the T somehow. Hearts dot get. Let's see, hearts dot size. So if you come into your documentation side of the help, you could search array, and inside of here we can see all of the functions that an array has. And one of those is size, right here. And it returns a number, an integer, for how large the array is. I'll press back a few times there to get back to our script here. So we can print how many hearts there are left each time we collect one. Let's watch what that does down here in the debugger. Jump, collect this one, and it says there's 5. Okay. Now we'll come down and grab this one. It says there's 4. We'll grab these. And we'll grab the last one, and it says there's 1 heart left. So why is it giving us the wrong number? when we collect the last heart, it still says there's one heart left, right? That's because when we collect this last heart, when we do queue free right here, it's just queuing that action. And so it hasn't actually freed this heart yet. So in reality, the heart size is actually 1 when we've collected the last heart. And that's okay. It's just important to understand that there's still going to be this last heart hanging around here because it hasn't quite freed itself yet, because we've done queue free and it's going to wait until it's ready to free itself. If you tried to just free it like this inside of body entered, I think we would get an issue. Yeah. It can't be emitting the signal and immediately free itself at the same time. So it says attempted to free a locked object. So this object is locked because it's calling or emitting. So that's why we use queue free. We're just telling it free yourself the moment you can, right? But now we can use our heart size here. So we can say if heart size is equal to 1. So if there's 1 heart left, we know that we've actually collected the last heart, the very last heart. And now what we can do here is just say print level completed, like this. Okay. Now we'll collect this heart. Let's make sure we can see our output down here. We'll collect this heart. Collect these ones. Okay, I'm bad. Actually, our wall jump isn't very good yet, so it's something that we could work on. And when we collect the last heart, it says level completed down here. So we have a way to determine whether or not we've collected all of the hearts now. Now what we want to do is potentially run some sort of code, right? Once this has happened. And one thing that we could do is, well, let's see, what could we do? What would be a good way to signal to the player that they have completed the level? And that it's kind of the end of the level and they're going to go to the next one. I think the simplest thing we could do when I think about it is just displaying some text on the screen that says that the level has been completed. We're displaying it down here, but we want to display it on the screen. So we'll come and we'll create a new scene here. And we're going to actually dip our toes into Godot's UI system. It's a very powerful UI system, but it's definitely difficult to grasp at first, to understand. So we're going to come and we're going to create a new scene. We'll go to other node and we'll search for inside of our control nodes. All of Godot's UI is handled inside of using these control nodes. And there's different types of control nodes. There are a lot of different type of control nodes actually. So we're going to keep things pretty simple, but we are going to use a container, and things get a little bit trickier when we use a container. However, we're going to use the simplest of containers, which is the center container. So click on the center container here. This is our control node. You can see there's nothing inside of it. And we can drag it to fill up the whole screen. But you'll notice that it's anchored, that's these little green things, to the top left of the screen. And you can adjust these to adjust how it's anchored. And what the anchor controls is how this control node stretches when the game window is stretched. And in this case, I'm not going to go into the specifics of that, but in this case, we want to set our anchor preset to full rect. And what that means is it will take up the entire screen, and if the screen stretches, it will continue to take up the entire screen. Okay? That's the simple explanation. We're going to name this right here. We'll name it level completed. And you know what? I lied. We're actually going to undo that. We'll leave it center container. Container. I made a center container here, but I actually want to have some sort of a kind of like a transparent, slightly transparent background color. So we're going to add a new control node and we'll do a color rect, this. And you can see it's now centered in our center container, but we actually want this to be our root node. So we're going to right click on it and find down here, there should be make scene root. You can see when we do that, it makes the color rect the scene root and puts the center container inside of it. So we'll click on the color rect and we'll come to its anchor presets and we'll do full rect. And see, now we can see the color, it's white. If we click on the center container, it is also still set to full rect, so we're good. So this color rect, we'll name it level complete, well, completed. And then we'll set the color to black and we'll give it a really light alpha value. So it's just kind of like, just slightly darkens the screen like that. We're losing our 1 bit. It's not truly 1 bit anymore, but that's fine. Now inside of our center container, we're going to add another control node, which will be a label. And a label is just something for having some text. So we can write level completed like this. And you can see that it is automatically centered in the screen, and that is because it is a child of a center container. So when you create a controller, not a controller, a control node, when you create a control node, if it's a child of a container of any kind, you relinquish control over its position. I can't move this node at all. And Godot actually tells me that I can't move it. The reason I can't move it is because it's a child of a container, and containers manipulate the position of their children automatically. So a center container will automatically center whatever is a child of it, like this. Okay? Keep that in mind. It's really important to understand. We have our level completed, right? Let's come to our world, and let's stick this node inside of our world. Now, if we just instance our level completed inside of the world, and just stick it right there, we're going to have issues. You can see there's already some issues. And it's just right up there. It looks pretty terrible. Also, as we move around, it doesn't follow us at all, right? So what we're going to do, we want it to be able to follow us, and we also want it to fill up the entire screen, but it's not. The reason it's not filling up the entire screen is because it's a child of a Node 2D. And that messes with its... control nodes don't really work that well as children of Node 2Ds. So let's add a new node here. We could just add a base node type like this and make it a child of that. Okay? Once we do that, you can see that it's now actually filling up the screen like we wanted, right? And in fact, it's over the top of our player. But it doesn't follow the camera. And we want it to follow the camera. So, in order to make it follow the camera, instead of using a node 2D, or not a node 2D, instead of using a base node, what we'll use is a canvas layer. Now, a canvas layer is usually what you want your UI to be a child of. It's a special node that will, anything that is a child of the canvas layer will follow the camera. And you can also affect that layer's, I guess, ordering. So whether it displays on top of or behind other things. Okay? So we'll make our level complete a child of canvas layer. We'll delete this node. And now you'll see that the level completed text follows the camera. And this is exactly what we want it to do. However, we don't want it to be visible at first, so let's hide it. So we'll hide that. Okay? So now we have some code, or now we have a level completed display that we can show when we complete the level, right? Now, how do we get access to that? We're going to create an event system. And this event system will allow us to, it will use signals and essentially allow us to text out when something has changed and that we should do something about it. So we're going to create a new script right here. We're going to call it events. And we'll come into this script. Let's see. And I did uppercase with this script because it's going to end up being an auto-loaded singleton. And I'll tell you what that means because I don't think we've talked about that at all. Okay, so we'll come up here and all we'll have here is a single signal called level completed, like this. Just a signal called level completed. Okay, now we want to be able to access our event system at any time in any place in our code. And that means we want it to be a global or a singleton. Godot calls them auto loads. So we'll come into the project settings and come to auto load, and you can see we can select a scene or a script, and we'll select our events, and then it gives it a name. Events is just fine. We'll add it here. And now that it's added as an auto load, what Godot does is that when you run the game, if we look at our remote scene tab here, this just shows us the scene that is running when the game is running. You could even do things like hide your player, and it would hide the player here. Okay, this is the scene that is running in the game in the remote tab here. And you can see our events script has been loaded as a node right here, and it's a child of root. It's not a child of our world. And when you auto load a node, that's what it does. If any nodes that you auto load, they will be listed right here. And this gives you access to them anywhere in your code. So if we come into our heart here, we can actually say events dot level completed dot emit. And this will make our signal, our event signal, emit itself out and say, hey, the level was completed. And it will send it out into the void, right? So it's sending out this signal. This is our own signal that we created. Now we want to do something with that signal. And in order to do that, we need to connect to the signal. But because it's our own signal that we made in code, and because it's on a singleton, we can't actually connect it through the inspector. I should say that you can make your own signals and connect them through the inspector, but because it's a singleton here, we can't connect it in the inspector. But if we come to our world and we come into the script, we can connect to that signal in code. What we'll do is we'll say events dot connect. No. I mean, you could do that, but events dot level completed dot connect. And now it wants a function for us to connect it to. So let's create a function down here called show level completed. This. For now, we'll just pass. And then we'll connect to that signal, show level completed. Now, when you hit enter, the autocomplete automatically puts these parentheses after, but we don't want those because that would actually call this function. We don't want to call it, we just want to connect to it, okay? So we're connecting our level completed signal to our show level completed function on our events. Now we can come down here and we can get access to our level completed. Drag and drop it in here with on ready. Oops. Interesting that it did that. Here we go. And then our show level completed function can do level completed dot show, like this. Okay. Now we can run the game. Our level completed isn't there. Collect the final heart. If I can. Okay. And it says level completed. But our character can still move around. And we don't want to do that. So let's add some more code here to actually pause the game after showing it. So get tree.paused equals true. We'll save. And now when we complete the level, it will pause the game and display level completed. Okay? And that's going to be it for this video. So we made our little heart collectibles, which was kind of more review. And then we created an events singleton, created our own custom signal. We made that event an auto load, that event script an auto load so that we would have access to it everywhere in our code. And then we let our hearts emit that event like this to let the game know when the level was completed. And then we connected to that signal and connected to a level completed. And we learned a little bit about control nodes along the way. So hopefully you enjoyed this video and learned something new. Thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you all later.